Accessories industries have been doing very well in the last few years, mostly because of the real estate targeted policies of the government. And international property consultants around the world have come out with reports which say that tile industry has been doing exceedingly well in the last 1 year, mostly because they have been benefiting from the policies of the government, especially to do with Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana as well as the infrastructure status for budget housing. But how has the tile industry actually planned their future and their new products for the growing demand in housing industry as well as the several other urban infrastructure sector? For that, we have today Aditya Gupta of Orient Bell to discuss the various aspects of the market as well as what the developers and architects and project managers can expect from the tile industry. Thank you so much, Mr. Gupta, for being with us.
Thank you, Mr. Nair.
To begin with, let me ask you, what are the latest trends that are happening in tile industry, especially to do with ceramics as well as the vitrified?
What we are seeing is that the vitrified segment is leading growth. So clearly there's a trend of premiumization in the tile industry, where the share of ceramics in terms of volumes and value has been falling consistently for the last few years, and it is moving first to vitrified tiles and then within vitrified tiles to GVTs, clearly.
Okay. And how has, or rather let me put it this way, how do developers actually have taken up to new innovations that are happening in tile industry? What has been your experience and what do you actually expect from them?
I think there is clearly a trend of manufacturers like ours working more and more closely with developers and influencers, as we call them. And while I talked about the premiumization in terms of ceramics moving to vitrified, another very clear trend is that smaller sizes are kind of going out of vogue, and you have larger and larger sizes which are coming into the industry.
Yes.
And premium projects, whether it is malls or premium housing, and even a lot of government offices these days have started moving to large, 800 by 800 mm, 600 1200 mm things. So this is something which we expect is going to continue and gain strength.
Okay, Mr. Gupta. First of all, do you also import tiles from abroad for selling?
No, it is entirely made in India.
Okay.
We have got 5 manufacturing units. 3 of them are fully owned by us, and there are 2 joint ventures in which we have significant equity stake. So these 5 units are exclusively manufacturing for us, and apart from that, we do share a fair amount of trading with manufacturers and partners, largely in Morbi, but no imports.
I see. Now, do you also source out of India in the sense that...
are we exporting? Yes. No, historically we have not been exporting, but this is something which we are now evaluating very, very strongly.
Many of the accessories industries players, especially foreign players who come to India, would say that the market in India itself is so big that you don't think of exporting or sourcing out of India.
I don't know what's the historical reason that OBL has not done that. I don't want to get into that also. But it is a fact that since additional dumping duties came on Chinese exports of tiles, not only in India but a lot many countries in the world, the tile industry in India has become a very active exporter.
Hugely benefited.
It's hugely benefited. It's a large volume and value which gets exported, and you have units which are primarily export oriented, based out of Morbi. The organized sector players like us have not really had such a big play in the export market.
Okay.
But as I said, we are now open to opportunities. We are exploring whether we should get into this business.
Okay, sir. Now let me ask you, as I said in the introduction, that government policies have benefited the accessories industry, and I guess the recent two reports which I've read, where tile industry has hugely benefited from the growth in the housing as well as the other real estate sectors. What has been your experience in the last 1 year? Has that actually hugely impacted, or rather, have you been a beneficiary of the partial boom in the in real estate?
So I have first thing I'd like to kind of give you a caveat that I am myself 4 months old in the industry. So I do not have a 1 year perspective to share with you.
Right.
I've gone through the reports which you have mentioned. One of them came out just about a week, 10 days back.
Yeah.
And but like everything, you have the analyst community also is kind of divided in its opinion.
Yes, absolutely.
So there is one set of analysts who believe that tile industry, because of a large share of unorganized players, does not have pricing power. And they are not optimistic in the near future on the tile industry.
Okay.
There is another set of analysts who believe that over the next 2 to 3 years, there is going to be a very significant increase in the tile industry volumes and revenues. So let's see what plays out. Obviously,
what has been your experience? Because you are the one who is involved in it.
I think for the last 1.5 years or so, the industry has been stagnant because of demonetization, GST, RERA, all these things. The whole construction sector has taken quite a hit. And tiles are the last stage, one of the last things which are put up in a construction project.
Right.
So if there was a stalling over the last 3-4 years, so that kind of pipeline has whittled down. And today, for some time now, we are seeing a revival in terms of new project launches. Some of the inventory of housing has kind of started getting absorbed faster than before. But the new projects which are getting launched today, there is clearly a 2-3 year gap before they reach the tiling stage.
Correct.
So to that extent, I think the industry had invested ahead of the curve in terms of capacities. And so last 1 year has been a difficult time for the industry, where growth in volumes has kind of been negated by loss in pricing.
Right. So in terms of in midterm as well as long term, what do you think the prospects would be?
I think midterm to long term prospects are very bright.
Okay.
You talked about PMAY. Orient Bell, we are participating in this opportunity in a big way. We have won some orders, and we are also negotiating bidding for certain other projects. What is to be seen is which part of the tile industry does PMAY really favor. What I mean by that is PMAY, by the very nature, is affordable housing.
Right.
So it is going to be the medium to lower end of tiles in terms of pricing. That's what. So maybe ceramics. Maybe a PVT or soluble salt and all that would benefit. But it would be a big push to numbers. Every week, 15 days, we get some news about a few million more housing, this thing getting approved by the government and stuff like that. So medium to long term, extremely bright. Short term, till the new projects come to a tiling stage and all, the industry will have to fight it out.
That's very interesting, Mr. Gupta. Kradai chief, I think it was Lalit Kumar Jain once who said, this was about 5-6 years ago, he said that the difference between the luxury apartments and the mid-house apartments, the budget homes, is actually disappearing. The only difference today, according to him, is the size. Luxury means more size at prime location, and budget homes means away from the city center and smaller in size.
So land price is the...
but the accessories which are employed are almost getting leveled in both, in the sense that they have almost the same kind of accessories as well as amenities being provided. Do you agree to that, and do you see that experience?
I wouldn't say so. I think a lot of projects which are coming up are very price sensitive, and today tiles would be say about 5% estimate, ballpark figure of the total cost of construction, or even less. So it is, and so many things go into it, from tiles to sanitary fittings, to piping, to electricity, paints, and everything. I think the final ticket item is extremely important, and the growth that we are seeing even in the formal players in the construction industry, they are getting more and more focused onto the mid segment.
Okay.
That premium housing, with ticket items of 4-5 crores in metros and all, is something which is not taking up as fast.
Okay, Mr. Gupta, let's shift gear here. Let me ask you about the government policies. You have been experiencing rather difficult times in the last 1 year, according to you. Now, what are the government policies? Every day when you have this hands-on attitude towards tile industry, when you are yourself into manufacturing and selling, what are the government policies that you think would actually tweaking of policies which can actually help industries like you?
Okay.
Can you give us 3 good examples which can be conveyed to the government?
I think the last few years has been a year of structural adjustment and structural changes.
Okay.
So the policies which have come out, which is whether it is GST, now the e-way bill has been rolled out, whether it is RERA and all, are long awaited and long needed changes. There is going to be a bit of a turmoil when the whole sector kind of adjusts to a new reality.
True.
But these are all things which are good for the customer, and these are good for the industry. So in the mid to long term, they are definitely going to be growth drivers. That's point number 1. Point number 2 is this whole push by the government of India through the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana on housing and affordable housing. I think is the need of the hour, and it definitely will stimulate construction work and all.
No, so my pointed question was towards the policy.
I'm coming to that.
Industry.
So I'm coming to that.
Okay.
I think from our perspective, I believe that tiles is part of the construction industry. Construction is one of the biggest employers of manpower. In terms of in the unorganized sector, there's a humongous number of people who depend on construction for their livelihood. So I believe that the construction industry and tiles should be taxed at a lower rate. Today we are at 18%. I think given the employment generation which the construction industry does, it should all be brought down to the 12% slab. That's, I think, one thing which would definitely give a fillip to construction, will give a fillip to employment generation and overall economy growing. So that's one area. Second is for us a very significant portion of our cost is energy, power and fuel, and we use gas in a very big way. And I think government policies on making gas available to us at a reasonable rate, oil and gas is not under GST even today, and so we don't kind of get any input credit.
The prices are going through the roof,
and the prices are just climbing up. And I've seen in the last 4-5 months what a huge impact it has had on our margins. So I think getting gas into the GST regime and allowing industries like us to take input credit on that is going to be a big change.
Okay.
Thirdly, I would say that the nature of our industry is that the project takes a long time to complete.
Right.
Even from the time that an influencer, an architect or a project manager calls for a bid to the time that we actually finish supplying of tiles, it's easily a 1 to 2 year timeline. And it is extremely hazardous for us when we go and commit prices for a 1 year, 2 year time frame, when the input costs like gas and all are like just kind of going through the roof and all.
Yes.
So it becomes for a sector like us, which has to kind of get locked into a pricing, end pricing for a year or so, especially from a project perspective. this huge upward volatility in gas prices and all is a big thing. So I told you two things. One was on the GST slab for tiles, given its employment generation potential of the construction industry. The second was about the gas pricing, the volatility, and getting it into the GST regime. That was the second thing. You asked for three things. I think the third thing would be this: once this overall this RERA thing kind of gets stabilized, and builders start getting back some bank credit, when they solve the challenges that they have with banks and other financial institutions and stuff like that, we will definitely start growing faster and faster.
But that's not going to come in the short term or the mid term, I guess.
I think there are trends there, because you see now a lot of project developers are aligning themselves with national players, branded realty players like the Godrejes, the L&Ts, the Tatas, and so I think this will play out. The trend has already started. If it can kind of speed up and all, it will ensure that the real estate sector the wheel starts moving faster.
We have more questions on the new innovations as well as new product range from Orient Bell in the second segment.